Hello, hello. It is Tuesday and we are live. I'm just finding you on my iPad so I can see comments. How is everybody doing? Everybody healthy and happy? Hello, hello, hello. So good to have you with me. As always, if there are technical difficulties, most of the time it's your own Wi-Fi. Or Facebook just gets clogged. So make sure you exit out and come back in. I do keep an eye on my phone because my phone, it's broadcasting through my phone. And if for some reason the broadcast gets interrupted, I will just start it again and continue. Pouring rain, Barb, really? We did have a little rain like yesterday morning, or it might have even been Sunday morning. I don't know, it was really strange for Arizona. Hey everyone. So while everybody pops on, if you were in class Saturday, thank you so much. This was my class sample. If you weren't in class, you can easily still take it. You can buy the class, it's $15, and then we will admit you to the group. The great thing about these classes that we've been doing isn't the class that I teach. It's really everyone's artwork, all their projects that they post with what they've made. It's so amazingly good to see everybody's interpretations of the projects. So that is just a treat to watch. But this was my little project from that class. So yeah. Now, our spotlight store is Creative Escape, yay, in Los Gatos, California. When Creative Escape was owned by Lori, I taught there quite a few times. It was Lori's store that I managed to spill a whole jar of open paint, and it splattered all the way up a big rack of scrapbook paper. And then Lori was retiring, and Nina bought the store. So Nina is with us today from Creative Escape in Los Gatos, California. Beautiful big store. Nina is fantastic. She has all kinds of stuff in stock. She's been shipping. She just posted a picture today of her car loaded with shipping boxes, so that she was making her first run to the post office today. So Nina from Los Gatos, Creative Escape, welcome. Please, Nina, post all of your links, your store links. Tell us what you have in stock. Somebody said, Nina, that you might have these scrubby soaps, right? So if you do have them, please let us know. Pipe in and let everybody know your website, social media, Instagram, Facebook, how to order, all of that good stuff. If you would do that, please, that would be amazing. I'm so glad you guys liked the class. Julie said she's made 2 books so far. Some of you are still working on it. That is awesome. Yay, there she is. Creative Escape. Los Gatos, right where you grew up. Cool. My husband grew up in Fremont, Bay Area. So, Nina, make sure you post your store links and all of that stuff. I cleaned up crap, but I didn't clean my glass mat yet. So Scrubby Soap is like a little miracle worker. So I always say that once dried paint is dry on your clothes, it's pretty much impossible to get out. But I've been, I would say 80% successful using Scrubby. It's got like oils in it. I don't know. I could be making that up. I don't know. But it's basically a kitchen scrubber that's infused with really good soap, and it's great for paint and inks and stuff like that. So it's just a great little So well worth, and they smell good. I think they smell really good too. Scrubby is soap. Soap. Just wash your hands with it. And scrub paints on your jeans. Paint on your jeans. So if you get paint on your jeans, you scrub it. Yeah, Tim discovered it about the same time I did a couple of years ago. And it's really, really good soap. I really like it. I love to use it. So also, Nina in Creative Escape, how do people order from you? Is there a website? Do they see stuff on your Facebook and do they message you? All of that good stuff. I don't know. I don't clean stencils, so I have no idea about cleaning stencils. Yeah, I was Nina's first teacher. It was so good. We had tons of fun, and I got a ride in Nina's Tesla. Hey everyone. Okay, glad that you are with me. One more little housekeeping thing. I did finally make some of these little baggies to send out. I'm still trying to figure out price and shipping. So that it's a printed bag that says tell your story. And then what I did, instead of just giving you random papers from my drawers, because it just seemed so lame. Yeah, your husband's Tesla. I actually gave you cannibalized things. So most of these are tags with cannibalized bits on them. And each bag will have 30 of these in there. Okay, some of them are just fronts, torn bits. Everything's stapled, so if you're anti-stapler, then don't buy one of these bags, okay? So the good news is I did get a few done. The bad news is I only have 60. Whoa, did I just say 60? 6. The bad news is that I only have 6. Okay, so I have 6 of these, not 60. I wish I had 60. And then I kind of pooped out. So I will definitely make more. So I need to just figure out how to get these listed and all that good stuff. So, but don't email me, don't message me privately. I need to give everybody a fair chance as well. So anyway, it ended up being little cannibalized tags made from cannibalized pieces. So I just sat at my desk and I watched Netflix and I stapled. I've been going through Tim Holtz staples like crazy because I've been stapling like crazy. Anyway, so just watch for that. I will do my best, but like I said, I only have 6 right now, just because having 30 pieces in each one's kind of a lot. So I thought I was going to have enough for tons of bags. And then as I was counting 30 pieces, I was like, oh my gosh, 30 pieces is kind of, yeah, I gasped. Yvonne, I wish I did 60. I did 6. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying when I said I did 60 bags. Oh, I wish, man. I could just sit here all day. The problem is I still got other stuff I've got to do. And today I'm going to the scuba shop to get in the pool to work on my final I'm an assistant instructor. I need to finish my full instructor exam. Where will they be listed? I don't know. I'm not going to raffle, but that's a good idea. I probably will. I would love for my husband to put them on my website, and then just you would click it, shop it, because Facebook will turn into a commenting nightmare. So I don't know. We'll see. I just need to. I'm just figuring that out. Okay. It probably did feel like 60, you guys. So today's topic, it said which comes first on the schedule, and then I realized that was so cryptic and dumb. So I added that this is really about layering tips, okay? And I used to teach a class a number of years ago, called, I don't know, I think I called it your layering toolkit, or I can't even remember what the class was called, but I remember in class I would make everybody try to do one piece with 25 layers on it. I used to do 40 and then people would struggle. Yes, I did watch Dead to Me too. Yeah, language warning, but it's really well done. Okay, So I thought we could talk a little bit about layering today. So what would help me too is what if we can, if you guys have layering questions as well, let me know. But here's Dina's philosophy on layering. My philosophy is, bottom line, you are free to make a choice, but you are not free from the consequence of that choice. And that's the principle I used to teach my kids when they were younger about everything. Like, you know, you're free to, you know, do drugs, but you're not free from the consequence of doing drugs, right? So that's an extreme example, but that's really true with layering as well. You're free to put anything you want on a page. You really are. The sky's the limit. You can do anything you want, but you're not free from the consequence of putting that particular product on a page. And so this is a handout. I'll make it into a PDF and I will make it available for you guys if you want, though I don't know really how helpful it will be. Because just like everything, what becomes most helpful with layering is practice. Practice, practice, practice. So basically, for me, the first key to layering is you need to understand how all of your products work. And so if you love Tim, which you should, he's awesome, and you watch a lot of his lives, you'll learn so much about how his individual products work, and he will teach you about how they work. And you should take notes. For if you love dilutions, you should also, you know, understand how dilutions inks work versus the mica. And the same with my products. And then when you buy products from other brands, you need to understand how they work. And so I listed here a few things that I use a lot, okay? And I wrote the media type, the properties of that media, what it's great for, and things to be aware of. And I started with ink sprays, and so because I used to use tons of dilutions, and I still love dilutions ink. So ink sprays, dilutions, and any reactive ink like Distress, okay? Remember, they're not permanent. They're reactive with water, vibrant colors. They're great for plain paper, foundation layers, backgrounds, but you have to be aware of they'll react with anything wet, right? And so same with all these products I listed. So oil pastels, they'll write on almost anything. They're smooth, they're blendable, but you can't write over oil. And acrylic doesn't go over oil very well. So every single product that you put down on a page is going to have a property to it. So you're free to make any choice you want. You truly are free. But as soon as you've made a choice, then you're not so free, okay? And then this is my layering philosophy before I get to actually painting. I think layering is like a pyramid. I think you've got foundation layers, meaning what you do first. And this is where you're the freest, okay? This layer is where you're very free. You can, you get a new art supply, you're spilling it, you're playing with it, you're doing whatever you want. Foundation is that initial choice. But middle layers and top layers are really about the consequences of your foundation, okay? These have to happen in consequence to foundation. So if I begin an entire foundation with oil pastel, well then my middle layer is going to be affected by that foundation layer, right? So everything kind of rolls downwards, and the bottom line is that foundation, okay? And all the other thing the other reason that I like to think of layering as a pyramid is the footprint of a pyramid, okay? So your foundation is the base of the pyramid. It takes up the biggest footprint on your page. And then your middle layers take up a slightly smaller footprint. In other words, when I say footprint, I mean space. So your foundation layers are the biggest space covering elements on your page. And then middle layers cover less, and then your top layers cover the least amount at all. And I personally put my focal point in the middle layer, in general. Now, all of this can be changed. This is not gospel truth. This is just how I've broken things down in a teachable moment, not necessarily, tried and true perfection. Rules are made to be broken, and art, technically has no rules because art's what you can get away with, right? But this is, if you're struggling with layers, I think this is a really helpful way to think of it. Foundation, biggest footprint, middle, medium footprint, and top layer, smallest footprint. And remember, foundation is where you're the freest, because you're free to put anything you want in that background, anything. But as soon as you've put something in that background, your choice is narrow. Okay. So that's why, again, it's really important that you understand your product and that you understand their properties. Now you're welcome to, watch Ranger videos, and we'll talk a lot about properties and how things work together. Ranger Inc. has lots of videos on their website, by the way, videos that are taken at Creativation and CHA, and that go back years about new product. And Creativation videos are because they are often, the products are often new, and so we're on Creativation videos talking to you guys about, this is how it works, blah, blah, blah. So if you go to Ranger Inc.'s YouTube channel or website and then click, I think there's a videos tab at the very top, you can watch a lot of those Creativation videos and take notes. The other thing about knowing your media is that you need to play. There is no substitute for you sitting down at your table and for having a new product and thinking, I just bought Dina Wakley gloss sprays. Spray them on something. Yep, Betty, I will make these a PDF. So you just bought gloss spray. So you spray gloss spray on something and then think to yourself, okay, how does this act with dilutions? Spray dilutions on it and see. How does this act with distress? You've got to play with it. I have not tried every single combo out there. And so there's truly, truly no substitute for your playtime with the media that you have. I get asked a lot of questions about gelatos. Well, gelatos by Faber-Castell are not a product that I really use. So I'm not qualified to answer any questions about gelatos. They're just not my thing, right? So if you have them, then you need to put in the work to practice and to mess around and see for yourself how the particular products interact with each other. Okay, so layering pyramid. Let's do a crazy page and start with what I would consider foundation layers. And we all have our pet techniques and our pet things that we like to start with. And so that's the last page of this handout, is that you should make a list. I'm giving you guys tons of homework today. You guys should make a list of every single technique you know. And I know that seems crazy, but just do it off the top of your head and then leave yourself room. So like I started writing texture and wet gesso, layering papers under gesso, paint or ink drips, paint splatter, palette knife painting, sgraffito, raised stenciling, plastic wrap, embedding objects, motto printing, collage, drawing, doodling, top texture, painting, spray inking, stenciling, tracing, beeswax, stamping, scratching, sanding, journaling, right? So all of the different techniques you know how to do, picture them in a little toolbox. And when you think to yourself, I can't think of anything to do, you turn to your little list and be like, oh, I haven't used tape in a long time. I should totally put tape down. Oh, I like my stencils. Maybe I should do some silhouetting or tracing with the stencil, or you know what I mean? So this helps jog your memories, kind of like the little toolkit, the stenciling technique tags that we were doing earlier in the free demos. You could do a tag for each technique. And Tim's so good at teaching stuff like this. I like Yvonne's idea. She says, write them down, cut them out, put them in a jar, draw them out. Great idea for sure. Okay, so very typical of me to start with a foundation that's easy to work on. Because again, if I now take modeling paste and if I squeeze modeling paste and texture this whole thing, what does modeling paste what's the consequence of modeling paste on an entire page? That's my question. I'm not going to answer it until I see your comments. What's the consequence of modeling paste on an entire page? Think about that. There is a consequence. What happens if, texture. And then what happens when something's got a lot of texture? Hard to layer on top. That's exactly right, Yvonne. So if you cover an entire page with modeling paste, it's going to look textural and really cool. It'd be rough. Definitely. You guys are exactly right. It's harder, a little harder to glue stuff to. It's impossible to write on. Drying time might be an issue. Yeah, exactly. And so how about a reactive inks? Let's say you love, and I love Dylusions inks. The bright colors are so fantastic. So like, let's say you spray an entire page with Dylusions inks. What are the consequences of an entire page sprayed with Dylusions? The consequences are going to be different, right? And my family is being so loud, you guys. If you can hear them, I'm so sorry. I don't know what they're laughing about in there, but they're all in there having tons. Yeah. So Dylusions will reactivate. They'll color change, which is how Diane gets her really cool ghosting technique. But they bleed, right? They react. Exactly, you guys. So I can't tell you how many times early on, I learned this lesson in using Adirondack inks, which were also reactive. I would use stencils and make this stencil background, and then I would try painting a face or something on it. And then let's say I'd used, plum Adirondack ink across the page. Every single layer that I put on is going to have the pattern bleed right through. Now that is a plus and a minus. So I think one of the things that makes reactive ink so cool is the fact they're reactive. They're so cool. But if you want to, if you're planning on doing a portrait or something, then they're not the best choice for your background, right? So again, you are free to make a choice. You are not free from the consequence of that choice. Okay? So, and there are ways to make it work. I mean, sometimes acrylic, sometimes workable fixative will help set something. I mean, there are ways to make everything work. There really are. Okay. So for me, a foundation layer, what I like to do in Dina Land is I like a foundation layer to be, to give me lots of choices for the middle layers, meaning not be too limiting. So that means I'm very unlikely to use something in a background that drastically limits my choice for other layers, which is why I love paint, because paint, acrylic in particular, is a very, very forgiving. I think it's forgiving. And this is gessoed, by the way. I did gesso. I think paint is a forgiving medium, because let's say I did that and thought, ooh, that is ugly. I don't like that. The wonderful thing about a gesso layer is I can then get that paint kind of off before it dries, right? Just spraying it with water. See where I've gessoed? See where it wiped off? See where my gesso did not go all the way to the gutter of the page? It's not really wiping off, right? Everywhere that's still pink, that's where my my gesso was thin. That's because I just didn't put a lot of gesso on there, right? So for me, gesso is insurance. Among all the other things that I call it, because gesso makes it possible to rewind just a little bit, to undo just a bit, and it makes paint move around better, and it makes paint use means you use less of it. Okay, so what happens if you start with paint, but then you start with all really, really dark colors? Again, so color is also a consequence. Which means if everything's incredibly dark, then what you have to do is overcome the dark by contrasting it with something light, right? Okay, so layer 1. All right, cool. Can you guys pop any questions that you have? I'm going to look at the screen for a second. Anyone have questions? So I'm just taking a paper towel because I don't know where my baby wipes are. And I'm rubbing. Now, here's why another reason gesso is important. So you're free to not gesso. You really are. But then there are techniques you cannot do if you have not gessoed. And this is one of them. Doesn't work very well with no gesso under there. Nina from Creative Escape is our store spotlight today. Creative Escape is in Los Gatos, California. And she will happily ship to you. Hopefully she's popping on and telling everybody what she has in stock. Social media links, store website links, all of that good stuff. Yeah, Victoria, all 4 pages are going to be in the PDF. Yep, gesso first. Well, for Dina, you're free to not gesso. You really are. The reason that stencil ended up really kind of goopy in there is because I put too much water on my paper towel because I don't know where my wipes are. All right, so first layer. And the other layering thing that I really believe in, which you've heard me talk about quite a few times in all of this, these demos, is that you must overlap. If you don't overlap, then your layers will have a very disjointed feel, and it don't know, it might bug you. Might not bug you. I know. Okay, I really don't know where they are. They probably are on the floor somewhere. I did pick some stuff up yesterday, but not significantly. All right, so paint, also, the nice thing about paint is it takes other mediums very well. Well, for the most part, you can write on it. You can stamp on it. I'm gonna do maybe just a little bit more stenciling. So I like to play around with different paint techniques in my foundations. Now, the gloss sprays are paint, right? And the gloss sprays are going to have a gloss to them. So that means even though they're acrylic, they're also glossy, which means it's going to resist a little bit. And gloss sprays do the absolute best when they are on paper that is not super primed, but look how well they stick, right? So gloss spray, I find I still have a fair amount of freedom with gloss spray because paint works on paint. Paint pens, this is why paint pens work really well. So yeah, I'm not applying paint. I put a layer on. That's just a reverse stencil technique. I can do that again. So with a baby wipe or a wet towel, what you do first is you apply paint, put your stencil down, and then you rub with a wipe or a damp towel. And this only works if you've gessoed. So you just remove, it's called reduction stenciling, right? You're taking the layer off underneath. So foundation for me that's very typical. Now, how do scribble sticks fit in? Well, this is not typical to me at all. This is way overdone for Dina. I'm gonna way overdo this one because I would leave white space if it were Dina, which is a whole nother topic. So right now we're not talking about composition, white space. We're just talking about layering the paints on top of each other. Did you notice though that the first couple layers went on bigger, and even in, this is still foundation, even in my foundation layers, I'm really trying hard to overlap and then to not 100% completely cover things up. So that my layers are beginning to overlap, but they're still reducing the footprint as I go. Okay, so Scribble stick. Okay, I think the stencil's still available, and I don't know the names of anything. Messy circles, maybe? So I dipped this Scribble stick in water. If you watch the Scribble stick demo, you know we talked about how Scribble sticks work best on, if your paint is dry, you can use the Scribble stick wet or dry. If your paint's wet, they work best if you also wet the stick a little bit, okay? Now, Scribble stick does have some interesting, fractured circles, thank you, Melissa. Scribble sticks do have an interesting, I don't know if it's resin or whatever it is that kind of binds the pigment together. And so I have learned it's not very easy to write on heavily dense sections of Scribble sticks. It's just not very easy. I don't know why. It just isn't. It's the resin in the stick, I think. But what's great is that now, I would say that's probably typical foundation layers for me. A few layers that overlap, something interesting in the layers, and then eventually, like this already is a lot for me. But if I wanted to keep going with foundation layers, those foundation layers need to reduce every time I add a color. When I say reduce, I mean get smaller. So these need to get smaller every time. And if I don't overlap, it will look weird. Overlap, overlap, overlap. Overlapping is your friend. Another thing that I like to do is I will pick a couple of techniques, and I will only do those ones on the page. So even though we have this list of techniques in the back of this handout that's like a mile long, that doesn't mean you should do all of them. I always say you might know 100 tricks. Pick 3 tricks, and then don't do any more. Okay, that's one of the ways I keep my hot mess. My hot mess style, it's one of the ways I keep it under control. It's by limiting the tricks. So this one seems to be stenciling tricks, right? Stencil, stencil, stencil to get lots of different texture happening there. Can you gesso any surface? Pretty much. Pretty much. So at some point you have to call your foundation done. You don't have access to a blending tool. Do you have a makeup sponge? You can use a dry brush as well. Just make sure your brush is dry. And be really careful about adding too much paint to the brush. Funny about the spray, Cynthia. So this is more Scribble stick. So what I'm doing now in Dina land, yeah, I did use gray just because I had it on the, remember, I'm not thinking too much. I just had it out. So foundation layers were covering a big footprint. I would say those covered big footprints, wouldn't you say? Now, I would say I'm on middle layers, meaning as soon as my layers start to, really get smaller, in other words, I'm reducing the size of the next layers, then you've moved into the middle category. And these lines are blurry, okay? These lines between top, middle, foundation, that's just Dina's arbitrary way of trying to teach you, trying to get you to think about the layering process. I mean, it's all loosey-goosey. It's kind of like Captain Barbossa. Yeah. It's more like guidelines, right? Captain Barbossa says the pirate code is more like guidelines. That's how this is. It's more like guidelines. Okay, so now I've got a lot of Scribble stick here. I'm adding more Scribble stick. I'm on middle layers, so layers that support, and I need to decide on a focal point. And this to me is the funnest part of art journaling. I love to create focal points. They just make me so dang happy. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking around the room to stuff that I have nearby. So, what are my options for focal point, you guys? It kind of has a focal point with this circle, but it's not a strong one. What are my focal point options? Talk to me. I do believe we talked about focals in a video at one point. I know a lot of people love their backgrounds. I find backgrounds really boring. So I tend to not spend a lot of time on them. If you spend too much time on a background, it's not a background. It's now just your finished piece. So stamp, images, words, draw. Could I draw on this? Are my choices, has that made drawing possible? Yes, if I use a Stabilo pencil, for sure. If I use a paint or a Fude ball pen, it's gonna skip where I've put a lot of Scribble stick, okay? So I wanna make that point again. Because I've laid so much Scribble stick pigment down, I can't talk today, you guys, I'm so tired. I can draw with a Stabilo, but if I want to do something with a Fude ball on top of the Scribble stick, it's not going to work really well. It just won't, you guys, because all of that resin that's in the stick, binding the stick together, it's just gonna, it won't write very well, okay? All right, so now what I want to do is create a focal point. I'm gonna add this. Why? Because I can. So this is just a little piece of paper that was in my paper box. Okay, so there's a little landing platform for maybe an image. Perfect. This was already cut out on my desk. Perfect. Now, I know it's going to be difficult to write on the Scribble stick, but I can write around it or near it. If that Scribble stick were dissolved out and spread out thin, it wouldn't be a problem to write on it. But because it's really thick right there and built up and almost textural, then I'm not able to write on it. I can write on it with a paint pen though. So see how, if I really think, gosh, I really wish I could write on that, that's when you get your paint pens out and use a Posca or something like that. See, it didn't, see how the pen did not want to make that E? It's because there's too much Scribble stick there. Okay. So again, there's a consequence. That's one of the consequences of me laying down so much Scribble stick there. Consequences. I've learned, the more you layer, the more you'll learn what your layering tolerance is, okay? And I've learned I have a low background layer tolerance. You know, people tend to think, oh, Dina's the layer queen. Well, I guess, but my backgrounds are actually very simply done. They really are. I don't love lots and lots of craziness in the background because I like my white space, right? Even this is making me twitchy. It's making me twitchy. So much color and texture in the background. The texture is glorious though from the, that's the texture of this heavy watercolor paper that's in the blue journal. And I mean, I couldn't make it look like that on purpose. It looks like that. All right, now other layers that are going to support the focal point. So now my middle layers include things that support this. And I'm going to see if I grabbed white paint. I'm going to put a little white paint out. I have a lot of secret art weapons, and one of my secret art weapons is white paint through a stencil. It really makes everything better, I promise. Look what I found the other day. This was probably a stencil from my first stencil release. Do you guys remember that one? It was plastic canvas. Oh, Dina. Did you know you got kind of foam on there? Dirt. I just put all that paint in my Velcro. Anyway, this is super old stencil. Found it in a box. So now I want to support and not detract from this focal point. And so I'm going to add layers that draw the eye. Another little Dina tip, I know we've talked about this before too, so some of this is becoming reruns. Are you guys finally sick of me? Oh, I think I'm sick of me talking. Because I've got a lot of sort of pink in that background, I want to paint the hat pink here because that's going to make the stamp look integrated. All right, I'm going to watch. I have not been good at all. I said I was going to look for questions and then I totally haven't. Any questions up to this point? Let me watch what you're saying. Doesn't that make that stamped image look like it belongs there? Should we do another supporting layer? La, 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 la. Anybody counting layers? I think I stopped. But notice layers are getting narrower and narrower, footprints getting smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller. La 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 la. Matte medium as a foundation? I wouldn't. All gessos are not the same. No, ma'am. I mean, I am biased because my gesso is pretty awesome, but do stamps always have to be done on a separate sheet? So that's that is a good question. If I would have stamped directly on this, it wouldn't have been a very awesome impression of the stamp. Try it. Try stamping directly on a background, then you'll find it's not that easy. So I find that it's easiest to layer my stamped image focal points in general. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, but in general. There was another question. Lonely Girl's coming. Lonely Girl's coming again, I promise. It's on a new set. Yeah, this will definitely need some pox. There was another question that I saw that I missed. Yeah, stamping separate allows you to decide where it goes. It's hard to stamp on bumpy stuff. So even a journal page that's really textured, it's not going to give you a nice, crisp image. So I really think that stamping and then layering in. Now, if you still want your background to show through, that's when you stamp on tissue. So like if I would have glued this on instead of that, stamped on white cardstock, if I would have glued this on, you would see the background coming through the tissue, but it would still, and you would get a nice crisp image. Okay. This Brandy, it was your question. Does everything you do count as a layer? So I think if you change color, technique, or direction, it counts as a layer. okay? Color, technique, or direction. Is that the little clown on your tissue paper a stamp? It is not, and I didn't put that in one of the new sets, but if you want it, I will, I can put that in. The COVID, did it affect release dates big time? It not big time, but it did reflect it a little bit. They did put kind of just a slow down, put the brakes on just a bit, but now we're ramping back up, okay? So for sure. Will this process work in the first mixed journal with the burlap? Oh yes. The process is the same, okay? The process is exactly the same. Does clear gesso function the same as white gesso? Pretty much, yes. But with clear gesso, you can see through your foundation. So, you know, if you're gessoing like scrapbook paper or old vintage textbook or dictionary paper, and you wanna give that paper some strength, then what you're gonna do is use clear. A lot of Bible journalers use my clear gesso because it doesn't wrinkle their pages too much, and it has it's not overly gritty. Okay, so I'm just adding a bit of lemon around the focal point. So this is what I mean when I say a supporting layer. So this is supporting that focal point in the sense that it's doing a visual triangle around there. It's helping ensure that you're looking. So supporting layers to focal points help you know where to look. Does clear gesso seal Diane sprays? Carol, it would, however, when you brush it on, it'll move the spray. Okay, I have a little heart cut on the paint palette. Yes, I do. These are left over from class the other night. I have a few actually. Oop, I just dipped that one in paint. Which side do we want? Do we want yellow or red? Or turquoise? If I want it to be visible, it needs to be red, right? I'm just using ultra thick to glue all of this together. How about some words? I have this left over. Now my text, any other writing that I might do, I might come back later and add writing at the end. You know, so sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. Could we microglaze? Are you talking about dilution? So I'm not familiar with dilutions and microglaze. I have one, Kylene. I have one. All right. All right. A little clown. No, Claire, she's talking about an image that's in a tissue set, and I know exactly which one she means. So I've never used microglaze, so yeah, I would assume it would work. So Arparna asks, what's the difference between art journaling and scrapbooking? Art journaling is journal with using imagery and words. Scrapbooking is preserving your memories using your photographs. So scrapbooking is a little more, and art journaling can be really, how you want to say, broad. Art journaling's broad, whereas scrapbooking's more narrow. Because really the point of scrapbooking really is to preserve your family's memories and your stories. That's the point of scrapbooking. Art journaling is whatever you want it to be. It's therapy, it's fun, it's artistic play and growth, it's anything. Whenever I'm trying to speak Spanish, I'm always like, how do you say? So I would say now we're on to top layers. So I would say speckle is the top layer. Any other little art marks that you want to add can be top layers. Marks with sticks, marks with pastels. polka dots, lines, more stenciling. I could do even more stenciling. I'll call that top texture. All right, questions. Yeah, art journaling's artistic freedom. The writing, I did a fude ball black Japanese pen, but a paint pen would have worked just fine. Art journaling has no rules. Like, art journaling is your soul on a page. And it's, you know, I do love writing in art journaling, but some people don't. I mean, I do use it as a place to write. So the pox is just speckles. So like if you have the chicken pox, I've been calling it the pox because when I speckle things, I usually end up speckling people's faces. So it just ends up looking like the pox. You give people the pox, right? Paint flicking, splatters. Tim has a really cool splatter brush. I have one somewhere. Here it is. So this is one of Tim's products. And it helps you splatter. Actually, this one's Tim's. It helps you splatter. Get a fine. If you struggle with splattering, look up his distress brush. And I'm sure he has videos about how he uses it, but you can just put your paint on it and then, I don't know, maybe you go like that. I don't know. I usually just go like this when I use his splatter brush. You can get a finer splatter with it as well, for sure. My gosh, this hour went so fast. So I don't sell any media. It would be stores that would sell my media in India. So whether or not the stores in your area are buying stuff. Sneak peeks of new stuff. I got in trouble. I can't sneak peek anything else. Is there ever a need to seal your final page? I don't. I really don't. I don't bother with it. I think it's a waste of sealer. Tim Holtz, Holtz. Tim Holtz, another awesome designer, friend, mentor. He's fantastic. He's an incredible educator. He and Diane both are incredible educators, Diane Reevely and Tim. They're fellow designers with Ranger Inc. And he has a completely different line of products, and he educates about his line. Diane has her line of products. She educates about her line. And her paints are different than mine. Tim's paints are different than mine. It's totally fun. Michelle, Lonely Girl's coming again on a stamp set. It'll be included on a stamp set in August, probably. I hope. Don't know for sure, but I will tell you because I've already let that leak that Lonely Girl is coming. Any other questions about layering? Did that make sense, my process? Number one, understand your media. That's this. Make yourself a chart. Understand how your media works. Okay? That's the first step. Understand your media and what its strengths and limitations are. Okay? And number two, think of your layering like a pyramid. Foundation, middle, top layers, remembering all the time that you are free to make a choice, but you're not free from the consequence of that choice. That's true in life, and that is true in art, in making art. You're free to make any choice you want for foundation, any choice. But then after foundation, you're not quite so free because you have the limitations of whatever you put in the foundation, okay? Overlap, you must overlap. You must overlap 30 to 50% or it's not a layer. And layer, I count something as a layer if you change color, technique, or direction. Okay, so that means if you flip your journal and change it. Third thing is to write down all of the techniques you know. Okay, write everything down. Every technique you've learned from Tim, from Diane, from me, from Julie Balls, Faye Van Balzer, from Nat Kalbach, from Seth Apter, all of the different artists that you love and follow. I want you to make a list of all the techniques you know. And then, like Yvonne said, you can even put them in a jar and draw techniques out. But if you're feeling stuck, you look here and you're like, oh, you know what? I haven't monoprinted in a long time. And then you do that, right? So this is kind of a fun little, it's a nice reference. So I call that your mixed media, have a media and technique toolbox, okay? Next class, I'm not sure. Probably, I'll do them about 2 weeks apart. I think she means Fude ball, Nina. This pen. You guys are sweet. Thank you so much. I felt so scattered today. Sorry for all my misspeaking. I don't talk to my family much in the morning because I'm not a morning person, and so sometimes in the morning, even though it's 10 a.m. here, it's not that early, but I haven't really spoken much. Do you concentrate your top layer near the focal point to strengthen that? I always think that's a good idea. Anything you can do to strengthen, so top texture near your focal point, but top texture can also be all over, okay? How do we get the PDF? So Claire, I will upload it in the files of Art of Dina Wakley media page. So on Art of Dina Wakley, there'll be a section that says files. It's near, it's where the list of, it's better to see on the computer, easier to see on your computer. There'll be a list, like there's a list that says videos, it says announcements, it says files. So click on files in a few minutes and I will upload the PDF there, and then that's where you can download it, okay? I'm so glad you liked the classes. Thank you. Please tell your friends. I really appreciate it. That's helping me make my car payments. I know, our time schedule. I contacted her last week about doing an Instagram Live with Diane, and she wasn't feeling up to it because they're always impromptu. And the other thing is that she's doing a week-long class right now, and so I don't need to bug her. We'll do it again after her week-long is over for sure. But those were really fun. First time watching you after stalking. Yeah, please stalk me. A lot of people say, how do I begin? You begin with a journal and pick a product, gloss spray, paint. Barbara, the abstract class is about ready. I did edit it a little bit today. So Carolyn asked when white tags will be back in stock. So I just, Alan just messaged me about that. Alan, one of the presidents of Ranger, he said that they were going to follow up. They've been on order forever. I'm not sure if the virus situation has slowed them. We don't know if they're on the water. I don't know. So they're coming. Remember, Creative Escape. Nina, thank you so much for being here. Support Nina. Will they ever sell the heavy watercolor paper in the blue journal separately? We haven't really talked about that. That would be driven by me, not by Ranger. And I mentioned it, but I don't know. We need to. It's a good idea. Good idea. It is really good paper. I would love bigger sheets. Oh, you know what? I remember what Kathy said now. Kathy said that because the paper's handmade, to do loose packs might not be as cost effective for the factory. So that might not happen. What is the next online class? I have not decided actually. The abstract class that I'm working on is a traditional online, not a Facebook online class. So that one you will buy from my website and have the videos forever. And it's not a Facebook Live class. The Facebook Live class, those happen and will, that won't, I haven't decided on the topic for that one yet. So that's on my list. On my list. I felt like I did a lot of blabbing, but I hope it made sense. Practice. Thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. What's that traditional class on? The new one that I'm working on right now is it's called Finding Joy in Abstraction. It's kind of an abstract painting class talking about how to compose and create abstract paintings, if that makes sense. Okay, I sure appreciate you guys. Any last questions? And I'll set you free for the day to have a wonderful day. I've got to go put on my scuba leggings and head to the scuba shop and work on some of my instructor stuff. Can we get input in your classes? Do you mean on my classes? You mean if you're okay, I think I understand your stencil. Number one, if you're in a traditional class, meaning you bought it on my website, then you kind of have to email me to get input, and you can email me your work and I'm happy to give you input. Number one. Number two, if you're in the Facebook Live class, you can ask questions during the live, and then later when you post in the group, you can also post questions in the group later. So both ways, yes, you can get input. Yes. There was another question that walked. I know, I hope I can be there too in August, Nina. Everything else before then is kind of toast. There was another question. Oh, Roseanne. To find the replays, what you do is you go to my Art of Dina Wakely Facebook page. You click on the videos tab, which will be on the left if you're on your computer. When you're on my page, click on videos and then you can find the videos there. I also upload them to YouTube, and then I also put them on my blog. The first Facebook class, so to buy the Facebook classes, you go to dinawakely.com. You click on online classes. You need to create an account if you haven't already. Make sure you're logged into your account, and then click on Facebook Live classes, and the first 2 classes are there. Yes, I do give you lifetime access to all classes. I don't take access away. All right, I hope that makes sense. Any other questions? Reach out, and have an awesome day. Support your stores.